Number one in 1961.
1961, a good year for Dal Shannon, a good year for pop music. Things were, pretty cool and mellow in 60 through 63. Elvis was busy making movies. The Beatles came in 64 and took over the planet. And then, of course, the British invasion was major. I do want to mention, ladies and gentlemen, before I go any too much further, is that next week we have the return of Dina Martin.
Fantastic. It'll be great to talk to her again. She was on the show a few years back.
Yeah, she's been on twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, matter of fact, those two shows we did with Dina were like two of the best shows we ever did, because we're talking about Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., and she even had a little story about Elvis, man.
That's true. And so for the second half of today's show, we're going to pull up one of those classic interviews to play for folks again.
That's great. Let's get one of those Dina Martin interviews up and get people ready for next week, because it's going to be live.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Devin, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. And could you tell our listeners a little bit about your company?
So I started a company a few years ago, Creisler Studios.
Cool.
And I go around to local bands and video them.
You've done mine. As a matter of fact, Eric complimented the video you did on me.
And I have a YouTube channel I build. I've got several hundred videos on there.
Great.
All sorts of bands from around the local scene.
Yeah, and then you work for you work a lot of the major concerts.
Yep, for the local 15, I've worked a lot of major concerts, from Neil Diamond to you name it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that a young guy like you is involved with that great union, and you get all those juicy gigs, for sure. So, what's the name of the company again? And do you have a website and a Facebook, YouTube channel, and all that?
I got a YouTube channel and Facebook, Creisler Studios.
Okay.
Audiovisual and.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So everybody, please visit his Facebook and his YouTube channel. And as a matter of fact, our show today is going to be on YouTube. So that's kind of cool. I got to start facing the camera a little bit more, because I'm not used to it. But anyway, so now the music got heavier, much heavier, to my delight, because I was really a fan of the early harder rock edge. And then when rock started getting harder in 67, Steppenwolf, The Who, Cream. I think Cream was 68-ish. But what are any of those bands I just mentioned, you have a comment about, Devin?
Oh, I love Cream.
Me too.
Yeah.
I love the Super Trio.
Yeah, they, like the White Room, that was not until 68. But,
Yeah.
67, thinking like Rock and Roll Woman, Buffalo Springfield.
Oh man, I love that song. It's one of my favorite tunes of all
Sitting on the
time.
Dock of the Bay, Otis Redding.
Poor guy didn't even know it. It went #1. He died before it happened.
That's too bad. Respect, Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin changed R&B to the best, and I forgot to mention Motown earlier. Motown, really influenced the '60s era, and I think we'd have to do a whole show on Motown. Really,
Sounds great.
you know what I mean? There was so much body of work with Motown, and but right now we're talking about the harder rock edge bands. Eric, out of that group of the Woodstock era, I like 10 Years After, for sure. I thought Alvin Lee stole the show at Woodstock. Which ones did you like, if any?
You mean of the artists that played Woodstock?
Well, yeah, that harder rock edge coming out of 67, 68 type thing. Led Zeppelin, for instance, 69.
Sure, yeah. I mean, lots of good stuff for sure coming out of that time. I like a band called the MC5.
Oh, yeah.
We're out of Detroit. Yeah, along with the Stooges.
Yeah.
Another great band out of Detroit. Now, those guys, at the time didn't make that big of a splash.
Right.
But they definitely went on to influence a lot of stuff that came out in the 70s and the 80s. But they debuted in the late 60s. And you want to talk about hard music, hard rock.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much heavier than the Stooges or the MC5.
That's probably why they didn't they probably didn't get a lot of chart success in those days because it was AM radio.
Right.
And if you weren't AM friendly, you weren't going to get played.
They definitely weren't AM friendly.
Exactly. And all the other bands that came along later, The Who and Grand Funk and Zeppelin and Sabbath, they wouldn't have had a prayer if it wasn't for FM radio. The FM radio getting popular right around 1970, 71. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that definitely made a difference for sure. Yeah.
I mean, the FM, when people went from AM to FM, it was about 70, 71, I think.
I have to.
I got you on that one.
Go research that one, but you're right that when FM came along, a lot of people.
It changed.
Yeah, people were mostly still listening to AM, so the FM stations were able to be kind of experimental.
Exactly.
And play album cuts.
That's
and
right.
Longer songs.
That's right.
And, heavier stuff or, stuff that wasn't necessarily in the top 100, but that sowed the seeds for success for those artists.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, it was so cool, Devin, at that time, that now instead of listening to the bubblegum stuff that was on AM radio at the time, because AM dominated the music scene, you heard harder tracks on, like the Cream and Led Zeppelin
And the Doors.
and the Doors and all the heavy stuff. I got about 2 minutes to go here in this segment, and of course I want everybody to tune in, and we'll send the link along with the YouTube link for the audio version of the Dina Martin interview that we did a few years ago. I want to remind everybody next week live on our show, Dina Martin along with
Daughter of Dean Martin.
Daughter of
If
Dean
that
Martin.
wasn't obvious.
Yeah. I kind of assumed that, but you're right. Jerry Osborne is bringing Dina back.
Is Jerry going to be joining us?
Yes.
All right.
Our
Love
man,
it. It would be
our
great
man
to talk to
Jerry.
him again.
Matter of fact, we may be able to start getting Jerry back on a few times a month with some of his celebrity friends.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
And he's got hundreds.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And I want to thank Devin for being on the show today. I want to thank our buddy Cody. He's standing here filming. It's the first time we've done this, and hopefully we can do it again. And Eric, always a pleasure, my man.
Yeah, likewise. Why don't we go out with, our guest is wearing a Rolling Stones t-shirt.
Yeah.
How about, in his honor, we go out with some Rolling Stones.
Love it.
65, number 1.
You're listening to Viva ENT, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greatest rock songs of all time.